So like just about everybody else, I absolutely love Matt Reeves' The Batman. It is easily the best live-action version of the character, striking the perfect balance between the hyper-realistic crime fiction of Nolan and the ultra-stylized fantasy world of Burton's Caped Crusader. I mean, they finally got it right, and it only took us, 30 years of big-budget theatrical Batman movies to get here. It just gets Batman and the world he inhabits in a way that's kind of shocking after so many iterations that just felt like a compromised, inauthentic take on the character. I mean, there are times when this movie looks and feels so much like a comic, game, or piece of animation that it's genuinely unprecedented. Like, I've never seen a movie that looks like this before. The opening scene, in and of itself, is reason enough to love this movie. It's like Lego Batman 1 in live action. It's the very rare superhero movie that's both a great adaptation of the source material and also just a truly fantastic film in its own right. Insert the Martin Scorsese cinema meme right here. And despite taking an actual fucking eternity to materialize, The Batman Part 2 is finally happening. But we still know next door to nothing about the sequel. Is there going to be a time jump? Is Robin going to be in it? And easily the biggest question of them all, who is going to be the villain? Now, despite years of ravenous fan speculation, we still don't know the answer to who the villain is yet. But we honestly have a good amount of clues to point us in the right direction. Matt Reeves has given some pretty major hints in interviews that really help to narrow things down. First of all, we know that the story is going to build off the themes and the events of that first movie, and it's also going to focus on quote-unquote deeper corruption within Gotham. Number 2, the villain, quote, sort of goes into his past and his life, end quote. Number 3, quote, there's an exploration to be had, and one of the explorations for me was to do something that pushes even further into the character of Bruce Wayne, end quote. And number 4, the villain has, quote, never really been done in a movie before, end quote. With all those details, it's really pretty easy to narrow things down, for me at least. It's gotta be a Gotham-based villain that ties into Bruce Wayne's past, and one that's never really been done in a live-action feature film before. And it also has to be a villain that isn't inherently fantastical, because that just does not fit into this universe. This means that popular candidates like Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Clayface, Man-Bat, Two-Face, and thank God, the Joker are all out. In my opinion, there are really only 3 main options, and a few other ones who could potentially serve as sort of supporting villains. So in the spirit of the Batman and great mystery stories in general, let's crack this case wide open. Alright, so gun to head, this is the most likely candidate. I mean, come on, we've all seen the first movie. Everyone watching this probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, it wasn't exactly subtle. I mean, holy hell, when the villain's name is literally in bold letters flashing on the screen, it's pretty hard to ignore. This character would pretty much check all of the boxes. He'd tie into Bruce Wayne's past. He's certainly never been in a live-action movie before. And he's definitely the easiest sell as far as tying back into the events of that first movie in a natural and organic way. It just seems very obvious and, for lack of a better word, safe. I know a lot of other people are already saying that they just don't want to see Hush, that he's too similar to the Riddler, or just that he's an all-around mid-character. And on some level, yeah, I mean, he's just a villain who has never really been given that many great stories or opportunities to shine. The original Hush storyline is pretty famous, but it's also equally convoluted and underwhelming. And while he was basically perfect in Arkham City, the way he was handled in Arkham Knight was bordering on laughable. Hush is less of a character and more of a J.J. Abrams style mystery box. But in a way, and hear me out, I feel like that makes him a great candidate for the villain of the Batman Part 2. Much like the Riddler, Hush is a character who desperately needs reinvention. Based off the teases in the first film, it looks like that's exactly what we'd be getting here. Instead of being a childhood friend of Bruce's who comes from a wealthy family, this version of Thomas Elliot would more likely be a middle-class kid who's a world away from the lap of luxury that Bruce got to experience. And instead of killing his father in an attempt to inherit his fortune, he'd probably actually have a good relationship with him here, which is why he'd absolutely hate the Waynes. And again, that's a little too close to the Riddler, but I think Hush could be more of an anti-Batman, being a match for him both physically and mentally. You could have him discover Batman's identity, and maybe have him reconstruct his face to look just like Bruce Wayne to, really wreak havoc on his life in both fronts. Like, it kind of writes itself. I'll admit, though, there's one issue, and that's making it an actual mystery. Like, it's not exactly difficult to figure out who this mysterious new villain is if you have, Google, and 2.5 functional brain cells. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying Hush is my first pick for this movie. I mean, you've seen the title after all, but it just seems very likely that's who it's going to end up being. And you know what? I trust Matt Reeves more than I trust myself. So whatever direction he takes things, I'm sure he has his reasons. So overall, if I check my phone tomorrow and I see that Hush is the villain, like, I wouldn't be jumping for joy and clicking my heels, but I'd be more than okay with it. He's a solid pick. Alright, so Hugo Strange is another heavily rumored villain, and one that makes a lot of sense. Now, like Hush, he could very easily fit the grounded tone of these movies, and could also tie in heavily with Bruce Wayne's journey as a character. But unlike Hush, they really wouldn't have to do all that much major modification with my boy Hugo. I mean, he's not exactly a super far-fetched character, except for these guys. They're kind of out there, just a little bit. They could have him be the head doctor at Arkham Asylum, give him his classic fixation with Batman, hell, give him his own batsuit, like that one weird comic from the 80s. You could easily have him discover Bruce Wayne's secret identity, which he does in pretty much all of his adaptations. And one thing I've seen a lot of people talking about is they've been speculating that they could have a lot of this movie set inside the walls of Arkham Asylum, which sounds fantastic. One of my favorite things about this universe is how they don't just kill off the villains at the end of the movie. Like, every single superhero movie does that, and it pisses me off. Like, come on, guys. Can we please have these guys come back? And another sequel? No? Okay. Like, this Batman actually has a recurring rogues gallery. And if they did have him trapped inside Arkham Asylum, they could very easily have Riddler, or, I guess, Joker come back into play. Hell, even introduce some villains like Scarecrow, Professor Pig, Ventriloquist, Mad Hatter, all those guys. And by the way, I would love to see those guys in this movie, but unless they do Hugo Strange in Arkham Asylum, they're not going to be in it. Come on now. Hugo Strange is a great villain, and he's long overdue for a role in a live-action movie. I mean, he's literally Batman's first recurring villain. But I don't know, man. This one's kinda not doing it for me. I can't put my finger on why, but I think it's because he's just so grounded and safe. Or maybe it's because in the first movie, Batman kinda didn't have much of a physical threat, and I kind of want someone for him to beat up in the second movie. Although I guess they could really make some pretty big adjustments to Hugo Strange. I mean, just cast Dave Bautista. There you go. But again, Matt Reeves could literally sell my feet on the internet, and I'd still trust him. Like, whatever villain he goes with, I'm sure he's going to make the right choice. Alright, enough of this devil's advocate monkey business. You saw the title of this video, and as much faith as I have in my good personal friend Matthew, if the Court of Owls are not the villains of this movie, I'm gonna riot. I used to be one of these people who thought it would be too repetitive to do another conspiracy story set in Gotham City, but now that it's been more or less confirmed that that's exactly what we're going to be getting, I think these guys are the perfect villains. A major criticism leveled against Batman over the past 10 or so years is that he's just some rich guy who punches the mentally ill poor people instead of actually trying to fix the system that created them. And while that's not really true in most and the best iterations, it is definitely true in some. And it's true in some of the most mainstream pieces of Batman media that almost everybody has been exposed to. Namely, the Dark Knight trilogy, the Burton movies, and the Snyderverse. There's nothing wrong with liking any of those movies. I mean, there's definitely lots of love in some of them, but come on now, that's definitely a valid criticism. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Batman is such a successful adaptation. It's because it's not afraid to interrogate its main character and give him an actual arc. Throughout the course of the movie, he has to learn that being an angry, violent vigilante won't just magically make the city a better place. That maybe what people really need is hope, compassion, and some systemic change. And it does all this while never making Batman out to be the bad guy. He's always the good guy. He just has to learn to be an even better guy. Call me crazy, but I think the concept of Batman fighting a group of one-percenters who control things from behind the scenes while keeping the city they profit from in poverty and chaos is a very timely idea that maybe, the average Joe on the street wouldn't mind seeing that in a big-budget blockbuster movie. Might be just a little bit cathartic, I don't know. That concept, along with him using his resources as Bruce Wayne to help the city recover after the flood, seems like a very logical progression for this version of the Dark Knight. And a huge advantage of using the Court is the fact that they actually have fantastic source material to pull from. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's original storyline is genuinely one of the best comics I've ever read. It's one of the best Batman stories ever told, and if you're trying to get into comics, it's the perfect gateway drug. It pretty much has it all. Fantastic artwork that's both highly detailed and cartoony, a story that's firmly rooted in horror and mystery, and also a story that's highly personal to Batman on multiple fronts. But most of all, it's just got a great new threat for him to face. It challenges Batman's perceptions of the city, his own ego, and his past. The court themselves are creepy, enigmatic, and just hateable as hell. And their undead foot soldiers, the Talons, are also really unnerving and are a legit physical threat to Batman. And the designs for both, oh boy, they're top notch. Seriously, this book, I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. In fact, I think it's so good that it should be the basis for the sequel. There are some story elements that would need to be changed, but overall, it's kind of shocking just how easy it would be to make a faithful adaptation of this comic in the form of the Batman Part 2. And if you haven't read the book yet, slight spoilers ahead. This is my ramshackle, half-baked ass sequel pitch. I'd say have it open maybe 2 to 6 months after the last movie. Bruce Wayne has come out of his shell and has become a much more public figure, and is doing his best to aid the city after the flood. Batman has also become a bit more well-known and trusted. The cops mostly like him now, and the citizens see him as a hero. Obviously, not everyone should be on board with this crazy man dressed like a bat, but it should be at least 50-50 at this point. Maybe he's fought a few other minor villains like Mad Hatter or Calendar Man since the events of the last movie, but now bodies are turning up, and he and Gordon are once again on the trail of a killer. Maybe there are some clues that point to it being connected to the old Court of Owls nursery rhyme that pretty much every Gothamite has heard. And as part of his new, much more public persona, Bruce Wayne is attending a circus fundraiser. And yeah, dude, you know what happens next. Dick Grayson's parents get killed, and he moves into Wayne Manor. And at some point, a Talon is sent for Bruce Wayne, Mayor Bella Real, and maybe even Harvey Dent, basically any noteworthy public figure trying to help the city. Now look, I gotta be real. At this point, I don't know exactly where this hypothetical story goes. But I do know that towards the end of the movie, it's revealed that the Graysons were killed for a very particular reason. And that reason is because the court needs a new Talon, and he was supposed to be Dick Grayson. And now Batman isn't just fighting for himself, or his city, he's also fighting for his newly adopted son. And you know what, maybe he isn't even Robin until the very end of the movie, or not at all in this movie. But he learns Batman's secret identity, and we see the two bond. I think that's always been a big issue with incorporating Robin into a movie. Not just, the green underwear, but also the fact that you have to tie his origins into the villain somehow. They have to kill his parents or be involved with it in some way, shape, or form, because if they aren't, then you have just written one very disjointed, shitty screenplay. I think Batman Forever honestly deserves a bit more praise for how decently they managed to incorporate Robin into the story. And I know some people just really can't picture Robin in this universe, especially with the DCU's take on the dynamic duo on the horizon. But in all honesty, I think Robin would fit with Pattinson's Cape Crusader perfectly. Especially with the whole mayor's son angle in the first movie, I thought that was a nice little detail they added in. I think Robin is definitely in this Batman's future, and I think reverse engineering the twist from the Court of Owls storyline is the best way to do it. Now there's one major character from said story that I still haven't touched on at all, and that is Lincoln March, aka Thomas Wayne Jr. Now if I'm being honest, I'm a bit stumped on this one. I absolutely do think there's a way to incorporate him into the sequel, but I also don't know if it's necessary. He could be another element tying into the checkered past of the Waynes. Maybe he inherited Martha's mental instability and was locked away in an orphanage much like the comic. Later on, he resurfaces as a sort of political knight in shining armor who befriends Bruce Wayne, just like the book. And as cool as that could be, and again, giving Batman a real physical threat to fight against, I also think that could put the Waynes over the line from them being morally gray to just outright terrible people. But I'm honestly really torn on this particular element, so let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, the Court of Owls are just a great modern day addition to the lore of Gotham. I mean, there are basically infinite possibilities for stories and characters, and they are truly iconic at this point. They're the only Batman villains from the past 15 years of comics that will live on for forever, basically. They're just a great fit for this world, and I don't think the Batman epic crime saga, as Matt Reeves calls it, would be complete without them. And at this rate, who knows if the Batman Part 3 or any other TV show or project in this universe is ever going to happen. I love the fact that this movie, it has taken so long to materialize. People are talking about it and speculating about it. Like, you don't see this for superhero movies or movies in general anymore. I think it's actually a very good thing that Matt Reeves is taking his time and slowly developing this thing. But at the same time, given what's happening with WB and the DCU, I just do not see a third part happening, if I'm being honest. So it's now or never. I think it's absolutely time to pit Batman against the Court of Owls. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you hated it, Don't do any of that stuff. See you later.